Spider-Man Homecoming. So Spider-Man Homecoming is Spider-Man's official Marvel Cinematic Universe debut with his own movie, and the sixth Spider-Man movie to take place in the last 2 decades. You had Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker, Andrew Garfield, and now you have Tom Holland. And this takes place immediately after Captain America Civil War, and the plot is Peter Parker is pretty much just taken all the way to that skirmish at the airport in the middle of Civil War, and then he comes back, and he's waiting on his call to be an Avenger from Tony Stark, and he's just waiting and waiting and waiting, and let's face it, the call just never comes. Okay, let's get this out the way. This movie was simply fantastic through and through. It basically captures everything that people like about Spider-Man. First and foremost, what people like about Spider-Man is the fact that he's just so relatable as a superhero. Like, matter of fact, when you think about it, anyone who mentions Marvel superhero, Spider-Man is usually among the first names that come to mind, and for good reason, because he's a typical high school kid with all the problems of high schoolers, like dates, grades, being on time for everything, having to manage a social life, and now he's got the superhero agenda on top of that. And this film definitely does a good job of capturing all of that. High school, all the high school drama, all the stuff that you go through in high school, everything that people have been through, like real life people like me, because we've been there, we've done that, we've seen it, and it showed on screen. Because this movie takes place all throughout one typical year of high school. And in the middle of that, you have him trying to manage his superhero life, like putting on the mask and swinging throughout New York. Did I mention that Tom Holland does a great job in this movie as Peter Parker, capturing the role of a teenager? Because, let's face it, this is the first time that Peter Parker has actually looked and felt like a teenager. As much as I like Spider-Man 2 and Tobey Maguire's portrayal of it in that movie and the movie throughout, he just didn't come off as very teenager-ish. Even looking back at it now, it's still a good movie or a great movie, but I didn't really see him as a teenager in that. Well, actually, I'm thinking of Spider-Man 1 because he was a teenager in that movie, but still. Andrew Garfield in The Amazing Spider-Man, he did capture that a little better, actually a bit more better in the movie, because he was in high school and he did kind of look like a teenager at this time, but it was a little gloomy-ish. This is more lighthearted and like family-friendly and all that, and it just really makes you think you're in high school again. The look, the feel, the sounds, everything. I wasn't worried about Andrew Garfield like being too stressed out about this role at all. After the few minutes of screen time he got in Civil War, I was pretty much certain that, he is going to completely own this movie in Spider-Man Homecoming. And sure enough, he did. Just the way he goes through all the motions of like typical high school life, and having to live with Aunt May, or Hot Marissa Tomei as Aunt May, which is mentioned several times throughout the movie. This is just the perfect person to play Spider-Man right now, or Peter Parker, and it's just so believable. I mean, I know I'm gushing about it and talking a lot about it, but really, that's just Spider-Man. It's literally everything you expect from Spider-Man, pretty much. Robert Downey Jr. plays Tony Stark once again, and I know a lot of people were worried about Robert Downey Jr. stealing a lot of shine from Tom Holland, but to be perfectly honest, Tony Stark is not in this movie that much. If I had to guess, I'd say he had maybe 10 minutes of total screen time throughout the entire movie. Not that he doesn't do a good job with it, he's his usual self, but he comes off as more of the mentor adult role in this. So thankfully, yeah, he's not in this movie enough to like justify all the fears of that. So you can relax. He does play parts in this movie, but he's used very little. Michael Keaton in this movie, oh my God, we need to talk about that. Michael Keaton plays the villain, the Vulture, named Adrian Toomes in this movie, and he's the bad guy basically. But the way it starts off, he's a very relatable character. Like you can see where he's coming from and his motivations for doing everything. It's laid out in like the first scene of the movie. And throughout the movie, it just explores that more and more and builds on that until you learn some fascinating stuff about him. And then when you think about it, like, he's actually a really well-rounded villain. And this is kind of rare in the Marvel Cinematic Universe because, let's face it, Marvel Cinematic Universe villains are kind of like very rarely well done. You can probably pick a handful of villains in each of these movies and like really relate to them and like them. He's among one of the few who actually stand out to me. I guess that's because I expect a lot from Batman, so this actually gripped me towards the character, and I actually very much sympathize with him. A lot of people do. In fact, as far as the Spider-Man movie villains go, he's probably the best one since Spider-Man 2's Alfred Molina as Doc Ock. Again, both of them are endearing villains. They're likable enough as people, and then they become villains, and you realize their motivations, and You can't help but feel sorry for them at points. The action in this movie, it's pretty well done. It's actually incredibly fantastic. It feels real. It's just well shot action. Like, you can definitely feel the weight of everything, how it looks, how it feels, the punches and all that stuff. But then again, that's pretty much to be expected from a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, or a comic book movie in general. And this movie is funny. There is a lot of golden comedy in this movie. Some comedy I really didn't expect, but it hit the nail on the head. It was just really good comedy, good laughs all around. Nothing too awkward or over dramatic, just perfectly funny. And a lot of that comes from Tom Holland himself as Peter Parker, but pretty much all the cast gets a moment every now and then. And hey, it's pretty damn good. Needless to say, this being a movie in the universe, there's references to other movies and other Easter eggs all around the movie, so you will definitely take notice of that. I remember I was sitting in the audience, it's like, hey, I know that, I know that, I know that, I know that. But that's cool too. And the good thing about everything is it's not really like trying to like be there for the purpose of building up another movie. It's just working as its own movie, and I definitely appreciate that. Guys, by the end of this film, I was thoroughly entertained. I enjoyed it. It captured everything I like about Spider-Man: humor, relatability, the fact that Tom Holland's a good actor, along with a well-rounded cast, and it pretty much like fleshed everything together. And it was pretty much the most complete Spider-Man movie since Spider-Man 2. For a long time, I've always thought that was one of the better Spider-Man movies. In fact, probably one of the best comic book movies all around. Spider-Man: Homecoming is actually, officially, in my opinion, right up there at the top with Spider-Man 2. And needless to say, for that reason, I'm giving this movie the coveted Diamond Ribbon rating. And yes, typical of any Marvel movie, there is a post-credit scene and a mid-credit scene in this. The end credit scene is actually one of the most genius things I've ever seen in one of these movies. And I'll touch more on that later if I do a spoiler review. Okay guys, so what did you think of Spider-Man: Homecoming? Like it? Did you dislike it? Who's your favorite Spider-Man character aside from Peter Parker himself? Whatever you think, leave me a comment below and tell me how you feel. Also, don't forget to check out my Twitter at AstroidMike. Don't forget to check out my blog. If you like this channel and you want to see more videos, don't forget to subscribe. Click on the link below on the next page. Share this video with anyone else. And as always, I will see you around. So until then, this is me saying, peace out.